Okay, hi everybody. It's nice to see everybody here again today. My name is Sharon Shaden Burks, and I am a senior instructional designer at Sinclair Community College. And you're in the Idea Networking sessions where we bring together transitioning teachers who are looking to get into the field of learning and development or instructional design. And we hear from people who have been through the process. And so before my career as an instructional designer, I was an ESL teacher in higher education for 13 years. And then I transitioned to the e-learning division at Sinclair Community College in 2019, right before the pandemic. It was the only time in my life I ever had perfect timing. And I started out as a media designer, and then I became an instructional designer in 2023 and moved up into the senior position in 2024. So it's been a really rewarding career switch. I'm really glad I did it. And I'm always happy to share with others who are trying to make that transition. And I'm going to pass it over to actually, I have to introduce our guest speakers. We first have Rachael Pearson, and our second speaker is Kim Scott. And I'm going to let them share about how they got into their roles. Please write down your questions because you will have time to ask them questions in breakout rooms. And Rachael, I'm going to spotlight you, and we're ready for you.
Hi everyone, welcome. I'm excited to be here tonight and kind of share my journey with you. I was an elementary school teacher teaching third grade for 8 years. I spent my first 7 years at a higher income school, absolutely loved it. Admin was great. Still dealing with some of the behaviors here and there. And then I transitioned. I was kind of burning out, but I transitioned to another school in my district where my friend was teaching. They had a more progressive teaching model. Went over there for a year with the new admin and everything, and ended up in a more toxic work environment place. And that was my kind of like the kick that I needed to leave the profession. So I started working with a career coach in the early part of 2024 because I left the classroom at the end of that school year in May. So I've been out for about 2 years. Worked with a career coach to kind of revamp, brand myself, market myself, whatever you want to call it, with resumes, interviews, all of that. Then I thought I landed my first ID job in about August, which, if the job market is not very friendly right now. So, 3 months out, I was very excited, but then I found out 4 days later into the job that I got laid off because of restructuring. My manager told me, she's like, I never would have hired an ID for this position if had I known from the higher ups that they were going to be doing this. So then I was back out on the job search again. Ran across a connection on LinkedIn that worked for a smaller I would call it like a mom and pop shop. They were learning solutions companies, doing a lot of part-time work for them in the meantime while I was job searching. Got full-time with them in January, but then the work kind of trickled and slowed down with all the government stuff last year because they had a lot of government contracts, and some of their bigger orgs that they were working with were also cutting budgets, so work was dwindling, kind of felt it. We got laid off from there in October of last year. So I was back out on the market again. And luckily, I was very active still on LinkedIn. My manager found me, pinged me that he had an opening, and I applied. The rest is history. So pure luck and timing for that transition. But I now work as an ID at Walden University. Um, which is part of Covista. So they own a couple other universities like Chamberlain, et cetera. But I work remote. The rest of our offices are kind of scattered throughout the US. But my L&D team is pretty small. So it's me, another ID, two trainers, and my manager. But we also work counterpart with our other L&D team. They take care more of the student side facing stuff, whereas my team takes care of more of the enrollment, building training for the enrollment advisors when students apply to go to the university. So kind of a little bit of my backstory.
I've,
Kim?
I have one follow-up
Yeah.
question for you, because you were talking about, bouncing back from being laid off. Can you speak a little bit more about how networking was helpful? Was it people that you already knew? It wasn't like you were trying to start fresh relationships?
Yeah, it was people I already knew. My manager from that one company, she was reaching out to everyone she knew, but I also at the time when I was transitioning out of the classroom and leaving, I joined ATD. Someone recommended that to me, and I was doing some coffee chats. So I joined ATD Arizona because you can join your local chapter without having to join the national one and pay, a huge fee if that's something that you're not into, at the moment. So I went to a lot of ATD Arizona networking events, met people through there who were keeping out eyes for me and stuff on jobs, connecting me with other people. So that also really helped. And I still am very involved with ATD on the board now and all of that for my local chapter.
ATD, for those who are not familiar with that acronym, it's Association for Talent Development. It's kind of it's a big professional group for people in learning and development. Is that how you would characterize it, Rachel?
Yes, yeah. The national, like I said, if you pay for the bigger membership, you obviously get more at the national level as well. But I would say the chapter membership, if you're looking to start networking more in person, that's the place to start. I can't speak for all the chapters, but my chapter does some in-person networking events. We do a lot of virtual events around professional development on certain topics and all of that. Each chapter I know holds an annual conference every year that's usually in person in your city and all of that too, without having to attend the big national ones. So there's a lot of benefits to it.
Really good advice. Kim, are you ready? If I can, let me find you first and spotlight you. Okay, I'm
When
good.
you are. All right. I'm Kim Scott. My story is a little bit different than Rachel's. I started off as a middle and high school history/social studies teacher. I specifically chose to be in low income areas. And that was actually my preference because I like to make a big impact. When I taught history, I had students that would come up to me and say, Miss Scott, I heard you're a good teacher. I'm gonna like your class. I mean, I'm gonna like you, but I won't like your class. And I would say, why? And they said, well, history is just dates and dead people. And the reason they thought that they'd all been taught by teachers that just, would lecture all day or give a bunch of worksheets. Nobody was actually designing the instruction. No one was trying to make it innovative. No one was trying to make it fun. No one was trying to be impactful. So I always say that's kind of my start of ID. I started looking at ways to make history very interesting, very interactive, meeting the needs of my learners. They didn't want to be taught like college students or like adults. So I had to look at what are they interested in and try to make it fun. And so that was kind of my first wave of moving into L&D because I started redesigning my curriculum and coming up with my own activities, regardless of what the district or the state had. I kind of came up with my own stuff. From there, I transitioned out of the classroom in 2013. So I've been in ed tech/instructional design for about 13 years. I first worked at the district level. I worked for my school district as what's called an ed tech analyst. And so I was kind of a techie teacher that knew how to use all the new software, the new tools. So I got hired by my school district to teach other teachers within the district how to do that. And even sometimes district level professionals how to do that. From there, I moved into higher ed where I did that. I also started doing a lot more of the traditional ID stuff like e-learning. I got to deliver a lot more. I did some instructor-led training within the school district. I got to do a lot more and had a lot more freedom in higher ed. And then in about 2018, I moved into corporate instructional design. I worked at FedEx World Headquarters here in Memphis, and I was assigned to a global training project. And since then, it's really been an upward movement to my career trajectory. I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of global companies and global brands. Right now, I am a senior instructional designer at Adobe. I also have my own consulting company. That's an interesting story. So about in 2021, I had someone reach out to me on LinkedIn and say, "Hey, you review courses, don't you? You build courses. Can I pay you to review my courses?" And I was like, I don't have any connections. She lives in New York. I live in Memphis. I did not know who she was. And my mouse was almost on the delete button. And I decided to stop. And I said, she doesn't look like a scammer. She's not asking me for money. She's asking to give me money. I do this for a living. Let me just see what this is about. So I ended up talking to her. She just wanted me to review a course she was going to build. And I think she only paid me like $50, but that was the best $50 I ever I earned in my entire life, because it made me say, what, who else would, people pay people to do stuff like this? Like, who else out there would pay me to do something like this? And so I started, researching. I started looking around. I actually started really strategically networking, because I hear a lot of people say networking, but they really don't know how to network, or they're not networking strategically. So I started networking, and from there it just took off. And today I balance working with Adobe. I also balance running my own company where L&D contracts are coming in. Much like Rachael, though, I was affected by the current job market back in December. Very unfun. The week before Christmas, I was suddenly let go when they had options not to. So that's a whole nother story. However, I was able to find me a role in about 30 days, and that included the 2 weeks of the Christmas holidays where no one was in the office. And so I shared a lot about that on LinkedIn. Earlier this year, I shared a post series called Steal My Wins, where basically I talked about how I was able to get recruiters to reach out to me instead of me just reaching out to them, things I was doing on the job market, just to stand out, to be different, things other than applying for 500 jobs and customizing my resume. So I shared that on LinkedIn. And as you probably have seen, every Monday I share a list of jobs, because either now that I'm gainfully employed and business is going well, I still want to help others, find their way into L&D and find jobs, which is I'm here today. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I love the advice and the motivation that both of you given for the current job market, because I see the posts every day. Someone, I had a guest speaker on, her name is Morgan Stevens. She was now up looking for a job, and it has nothing to do with how, a person's performance. It's just a really volatile market right now, and especially in corporate L&D. So networking really does help. And so anytime you can, be known to people as a real person, I do these things, I'm competent, it helps. Like when you do come up for needing another job. Brandy, Kim Scott is absolutely so positive on LinkedIn. Kim, your posts always brighten my day. That's so nice.
I think she's trying to make me cry. Thank you.
For those who joined late, there's today's agenda, so you can get it. Let's see, we're at 7:17. I think we can probably go ahead and do some, unless, does anyone have a big question before we go to breakout rooms? We're going to have time for whole group Q&A, but if we feel like we're pretty good for breakout rooms, we can go ahead and do that now. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Before we get too into the weeds for our whole group Q&A, I want to let you know that the next time we are going to be meeting is September 1st, 7 to 8 p.m. There's the registration link in the chat if you would like to go ahead and get registered now, get it on your calendar. Something I want to share before we take whole group Q&A. Last month, I said I would share whatever I'm working on in AI. I always find something new in AI to share. And this last month, I was given a project to work with aviation instructors, planes. Fixing planes. I don't know anything about fixing planes, but AI does. And given the right source documents, you can make all kinds of stuff. So with my subject matter experts, they had content slides and I had access. They had, I think it's just out on the internet, FAA regulations, stuff like that. I put together their in-person agenda. I won't even call it hybrid. It's an in-person training that I was helping create. No, revise. I was helping create supplemental instruction that students could do before the in-person instruction and things they could do after to solidify what they learned. So using my source documents, I came up with some really cool stuff that I'll show you now. This was built with vibe coding, and the container is articulate rise. So this object that you see here is all code that I built between Canva AI and ChatGPT. Although I have to tell you, ChatGPT did a better job giving me code that wasn't broken when I put it into Rise. Canva was having some issues with giving me code that would break my containers and make it so things didn't display or buttons were missing. So yeah, I have this, can you get the aircraft back into service, which is kind of the goal of the whole course is it's about technicians receiving aircraft, troubleshooting, fixing it, and the compliance that goes along each step to make sure that the aircraft is repaired, documented, and returned to service safely. So you got a little dashboard here, and we're starting with review the work package, select all the issues. I don't know. Let's see what happens. Wrong part. Maybe the format is incorrect. I'll guess those three. Submit my findings, and then it gives me some feedback here. Okay, inspect the maintenance traveler. So this is another document that they encounter along the way. I have to tell you, I don't know what a maintenance traveler is, and I'm still able to make this. So this is where the subject matter experts review is really important. I was like, guys, I have no idea if this is correct. Can you please go through this and tell me what is off? And the comments that they gave back to me weren't that anything was wrong. It was like, oh, can you make it turn this color, or can you add a few more wrong answers? So they didn't say anything was inaccurate, but they did say how they wanted the experience to be a little bit different. I'm just going to guess here. And then sometimes there's like a little scenario, and this is reinforcing the fact that you're not supposed to skip steps. And you're not supposed to complete documentation later. I like this one. Can you sign my required inspection form? I need to leave early. Sign it as a favor? Let's do that one. Oh, no good. Should not sign it as a favor. And then by the end, I have just a couple more. And wow, this is actually kind of a long scenario. I didn't realize how long this was. But anyway, it takes them through, it's a summative activity that kind of takes them through all the things that they've learned in all the modules. And I think it's really incredible what you can come up with given the right source documents and the right tools, and making sure that you're sharing it with your subject matter expert to find out if anything is off. Brandy said, I vibe coded a very similar activity for nursing students in D2L. I was amazed at how well it functioned. Me too. Me too. I mean, my workflow was like talking with Chat GPT about what's an interactive activity I could do that I could build in a Rise block. And it would come up with some ideas. Okay, let's do activity 3. Okay, and here's my idea. Oh, okay. Well, can you create the code for that? Yes. Then I go put it in, and then I go through it as a user. And we do a couple. I would say I do between 5 and 10 iterations myself before I hand it to the subject matter expert, and then they look at it and tell me what they think if anything's inaccurate or they want to change anything. All right, we still have time for other people to ask questions now that I've shown you that. Feel free to unmute yourself and we'll take some questions.
Guys, one at a time. Whoa, one at a time.
Tim.
No, I was just making a joke. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. You don't have anything to say?
Oh, not really. No, I don't. I was just making that's what I would do in class. Like, because I was a teacher for almost 20 years. And if I asked a question, it just was greeted with dead silence. I'd be like, whoa, 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 guys, one at a time, one at a time.
Yeah.
I can't see through all the hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a facilitator's like worst nightmare is just silence. You're like, is anybody out there? Hello? Is this thing on?
Right.
Right. So not really a sort of a question. So I try to use AI in my portfolio project. So mine was for a fictional financial services company, and doing like a client discovery model. And this was something for the agents to practice with kind of in a safe environment. And as I was thinking about it, it started out as a branching activity, but I'm like, there's so many different ways a conversation can go. And I had seen something about generating AI coaches. So I went and I programmed 3 different clients with different needs and personalities and how they would react to certain situations, and then a mentor coach to help evaluate their conversation at the end. And I guess my question is, if someone were looking at my portfolio, how are they are they looking for people to use AI as part of their uh, um, the projects? Do they think that that's too much use of AI and it's not you doing it? Do they think it's a cheat, or is it something that they're looking for people to start using more?
I'm gonna
Rachel,
tell you.
okay, go ahead.
I'll jump in. I'm gonna tell you this. You're like most things in life. That answer is gonna vary. It depends um on who that hiring manager or person looking at it. Because some people are absolutely afraid of AI, and they may look at it and say, "Oh, you just went to AI and say, make me a good project and put in your portfolio." Anybody that's smart and that actually uses AI will know better. um I have created some, like Sharon did, created some great stuff with AI, but it wasn't like, hey, go make me this AI course, and then 2 minutes later it had a beautiful course and I walked off. No, we had to have conversations. I had to know how to prompt it. I, as an instructional designer, had to know it lied right there and put something it shouldn't have put. And I had to use my professional experience and knowledge to use AI to make it better. So I will say, anybody that's forward thinking, anybody that's worth hiring you would appreciate definitely some AI in your portfolio, simply because it's here to stay. And you want people that know how to use it and use it correctly. That's the other thing. So I've seen some people use it, and I can tell they just got it to generate something and they have no concept to what it is. It doesn't look good. It's not factually correct. I can still, take a look at that and tell that. well, then you didn't use it correctly. You're not worth hiring. But like you said, you used it with a branching scenario. And oh, it sounds like from what you're saying, you really used it strategically. And if you used it strategically and there was a good result, that's fine. Um, I will tell you too, I am seeing more and more recruiters reach out to me and more clients reach out to me, and they are interested in people who are experienced with AI and learning. Now, some of them have no concept of what it is themselves. So as long as I can speak to it and how it's helping results and I'm using it responsibly and strategically, I haven't had anybody that was like, oh, you just using AI, I'm not going to hire you. So I do think it's worthwhile to have in your portfolio, be able to speak to, and maybe that's a good thing to include. You know how people include descriptions under their portfolio piece saying what tool I used, what goal, it met and how I solved things. You may want to include, like I use this AI tool and here's how I
Yeah.
used it strategically. Well, you're on the right track then.
Okay, good. That's good to have that uh, affirmation that it's out there and it's being looked at positively. Thanks.
Rachel, do you want to speak to that too?
Yeah, so my company, they allow us to use Copilot and everything, and they don't have a problem with it. So I've even used it to help generate content from a lot of stuff when I was making a course for my counter team that I don't know anything about their side because I don't work with them a whole lot. So, it was about compiling all the notes from all the websites and everything that I would dump into AI. I made an agent in Copilot for that purpose because I knew I'd be using it more and more. And so I kind of trained it to that, but there were still errors. I still had to go back in and look and find the errors before I could, copy paste directly to the content planner to make sure that it was okay and that the content was correct. So yes, you do have to double check stuff here and there. But it definitely does save time because that content planner ended up being like 50 pages of stuff. So like I had a tight timeline, so there was no way that I could sit and write that in, 2 weeks time before I had to turn it around for review before I designed and built it. So it does save time here and there.
Yeah, and one thing, I attended a conference oh my gosh, probably a month ago now, that was offered through Anthropic. And it was comparing some AIs to other AIs. And what they found, and I've seen this over and over as well, is that there's like a 80%, yeah, I want to use AI, but there's an actual 20% adoption rate in organizations because they don't quite know how it fits into the workflow. So as something I've been trying to do is how do I fit that into my ID workflow? As you said, is, put all the meeting information in there with the SMEs, stakeholders, whatever it may be. And then can you summarize it? And then what's the problem here? Create a needs analysis or create a learner's analysis, etc. But like for me, I just learned, I think about a week ago now, so bear with me, of how to actually create my AI. And I've been using Gemini a lot to question me on things when I put in a prompt. And so it actually gets way more accurate of what I want it to spit out so I can build what I need. Because I'm still a control freak for that kind of stuff. As you said, there's errors, it doesn't quite get it right, or it wants to do its own thing over here. So I'm still trying to get used to it. But so far it's been kind of nice where it actually kind of questions me. And you sure you want, but what about this? Like, it's behaviorism, constructivism, blah, the other ones. You sure it's about this, but if you do that, then it follows this, that kind of thing. So it's kind of like sitting there with a coworker sometimes, but so you can change it up. And I think I've been attending a lot of AI this summer since I got laid off. And I probably am up to 27 webinars, sessions, whatever. And there is so much of AI out there, and they don't know how to implement it. And people don't know, how do you fit it into your workflow? How do you fit it into your everyday items of what you need to do and how to need to do it? So those are the kinds of things you think about with AI, because over 100 jobs I've applied for this in the past few months. And I actually calculated them, and there is 86% that there is a mention of AI, of whatever mentions of what it has, whether it's like you will be using AI, or these are my favorite, and I've seen a few of them, use AI to make sure it's correct. And I was like, oh, okay. So it's still brand new out there in the world of workforce. And as someone who left a government contract in March, April, where we were not allowed to use AI at all. I've been doing a lot of self-education in the past few months to be able to, how do I use it for myself? Which right now I'm actually currently creating a brand new portfolio using Gemini. So those are the kinds of things that I've been trying to educate myself on and trying to keep my on point with how our companies doing this out there. What kind of companies are doing? And you look at the big ones, you look at Deloitte, PricewaterhouseCoopers, all of those big organizations, follow them on LinkedIn, and they give you a lot of posts of what they've been doing. And so you can kind of get a feel of like what the corporate world is being like right now. But adoption rate is low because a lot of people don't know how to incorporate it into their day-to-day working.
Kim's
Sorry.
got a hand up. Kim, let's hear what you want to say, and then we have to close
Oh,
out.
yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, sure. There was a comment Edwin made about using AI in the job applications. Now that can, again, that's one of those things. Since AI is new, it varies based on who's reading it, what they think. But I'll give you one example. Recently, I was hiring like subcontractors for my own company, and I saw exactly what they meant. I don't mind, I'm gonna use AI in the process. Other people might use AI to do their, help with their applications. I think I was okay with AI like assisting. Like for instance, if I asked a question, you answered it and you want AI to spell check it or polish it. That was fine. What I didn't want, and I'm pretty sure this is what a lot of HR people don't want, if there are supplemental questions, you take it, slap it in AI, and tell it to give you an answer, and then you copy and paste it. And I know there are people who absolutely did that with mine, and I absolutely declined them. And I know they did because if 5 people have virtually the same answer written the same way in the same style, I almost felt like, didn't I just read that? Am I having a deja vu moment? Am I crazy? And no, I went back and looked side by side, and it didn't really even match up with other things that they had in there. I would have rather them say, for them to have said I had no experience in it. So that absolute plagiarism is one of the things that isn't, good. As far as the rest of it, it may just depend on the person as far as how much they use it. I always try to start with my own voice and my own answer, and then just let AI possibly polish it or say, did I answer all the points they asked for? So something like that to me is less using AI, because you could have asked a friend to do that.
All right. Thank you so much, Rachel and Kim and everybody for sharing your thoughts in our Q&A. I really appreciate our guest speakers for sharing their time and expertise and talent. It really does make a difference when we reach out to each other and share what we know, because as Rachel and Kim have told us tonight, networking is super important when we're in between jobs, and it is always good to remind people that you are a human being out there who is very competent and very smart and can do really good work for organizations. So I hope to see you guys all on September 1st, and take care. And if you are going back to school because you are teaching, my best of luck to you on the beginning of the school year. I hope you don't lose your mind. And I'll see you guys in September. Have a great night.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank
Sharon.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.